This is part of this goes back to some of the comments that I made in a prior council meeting talking about the 22nd Street Bridge. It's a capital improvement project, and the technique or the method now of funding it or not funding it, and how this would affect the South Norfolk from economic development. What you're seeing on the screen is the photo and the website of the City of Chesapeake Economic Development, and you see one of the photos there is of the South Norfolk streetscapes. This is important, I think, as we go forward, because you'll see that there's been major infrastructure improvements in South Norfolk, but obviously there is improvements needed. The South Norfolk, the 22nd Street Bridge, there's some critical considerations that I think we need to look at and consider. One, the Wilson Road on the Norfolk side of that bridge is 25 miles per hour, and the City of Norfolk has no plans to improve, widen, or increase the speed on that road. On the South Norfolk side, you have Poindexter Street, which is 25 miles an hour, and trucks are prohibited. Wilson Road and Wilson Street are the same, but Wilson Road already runs parallel to the bridge on the opposite side of the track, so that there is access to, you can either go over the bridge or go over Wilson Road. Additional vehicles, and the question of the consideration, are additional vehicles really imperative for economic development in the South Norfolk Poindexter corridor versus a walkable retail multi-use business atmosphere? And finally, and I think the biggest thing that's always been pointed out and wanted to address, is emergency response is equivalent or better without the bridge in place. This is the Norfolk side of the bridge when you cross from South Norfolk. It shows the two-lane road with a stoplight. You see the overhanging utility poles. This goes on for quite a distance, so it's not a high traffic corridor. The second is the emergency response times. The concern that everyone's had is if the trains are blocking the roadways, what would the Chesapeake Fire Department do? Number one, you see with the star, you have here the Norfolk Fire Station. In Berkeley, there's a cooperative agreement between the Chesapeake Station 1 and that fire station, and 4 minutes, 3 to 4, 5 minutes is what the access would be to an address that's on just on the other side of the bridge. I found a street address of 609 Crystal. The Chesapeake Fire Station 3, which is up at the Indian River, that's at 10 minutes, and Chesapeake Freeman Avenue Fire Station's 10 minutes. And of course, this is all only if that railroad train is blocking the roadway would this be necessary. Otherwise, Fire Station 1 is right there. Well, how does this compare with other emergency response times around the city? Right now, one of the things tonight on the agenda was Elbow Road. There's a very a nice church there called Bethel Baptist Church. If there was an emergency there, the fire stations in Greenbrier or the fire station in Great Bridge, 9 to 13 minutes. And as you see the note below, number one, you have the Greenbrier traffic, and number two, especially as it is with the Great Bridge, you might have the Centerville Drawbridge. So there are comparative times. The fact that the bridge is not in place, so the bridge is not able to take emergency vehicles over it, does not make it less than comparative situations in the city. The cost and traffic analysis, I think this is important because when we look at economic impact and what can happen, how traveled is this bridge, and Mr. Baker pointed out my math is a little curious, and so I'll explain that. This bridge does 5,000 vehicles per day. To give you a comparative in the city, the Deep Creek AIW bridge is 35,000 vehicles per day. Now, 5,000 vehicles per day means 2,500 vehicles one way, each way. When you get to the base of the bridge in South Norfolk at Liberty Street, You have half of them turn towards Poindexter, half of them turn the other way. And again, towards Poindexter, you can have no trucks. The cost of this replacement is $18 million, 1,250 vehicles per day. That is $14,400 per vehicle. Now, that's not what it costs, but that's just trying to do a logic math in this. In the Deep Creek situation, if you counted all 35,000 vehicles at $50 million, that cost is $1,428. Now, in a comparative sense, the reason I did it this way was that the 22nd Street Bridge, most of those vehicles are leaving Norfolk, not coming into South Norfolk, going to Norfolk, so economic development-wise on Poindexter is why. But basically, if you take the math correctly, and Mr. Baker pointed out, this bridge is 3 to 4 times more at 5,000 vehicles per day than the Deep Creek Bridge would be per vehicle. Today, this is the project. It's a close to $19 million project that's on the capital improvement plan, and actually there's been some parts of it initially started. It was originally to be bonded. You can see up there basically about 12 to 13 million was bonded. Then VDOT and the matching plan, and we voted, there was a vote to reconfigure this to VDOT and $13 million in TIF cash. The concern was that utilizing the TIF cash would drain all the TIF cash, or the vast majority of the TIF cash in South Norfolk TIF. The question here, does the bridge produce economic development benefits? My assertion is they're minimal. Is this a transportation priority versus other transportation projects in the city? Are there other options? And will it generate revenue and economic? The questions on the bridge alternatives are, it can be repaired, demolished, or delayed. The estimate to repair several years ago was $2 million. There was a suggestion about demolition, or obviously how much of a priority of this can it be delayed. The second is to finance the replacement bridge as it was originally proposed, and that was to bond it versus paying cash for it. That preserves the TIF leverage for other projects. Or the third is what it is currently, to build it with the TIF cash, and that will mean over time that the TIF will have very limited or no resources available to do other projects in the TIF area. I think the goal with the 22nd Street Bridge and economic development in South Norfolk is to build something that people will want to stay and spend, not just something that people will want to drive through. And I think you can see by the pictures on the bottom half, one is Town Center, Virginia Beach, but the others are obviously walkable, merchant types, business type centers. And I think that that's really the goal, was to make it a business environment. As we proceed, the question is, well, why am I, you want to just go to the next slide, is why am I talking about this today? And that is because all the resources in the TIF going to the 22nd Street Bridge would not allow us to do what I believe is a proposal that Jim Baker and I have reviewed, but one that I feel very strongly about, is that instead of just trying to, by tax incentives and all the other programs that we've tried, this is actually something that I think has succeeded in other localities, and something that has a very viable option for businesses in the community of South Norfolk. First, I believe we strongly need to start where the greatest traffic is with our investments, and that's the 464. That's the part of the corridor where we need to take from the gateway and move forward. As with anything you sell, it's a positive first impression. If you come off the interstate or come off the Jordan Bridge, what you see, the positive impression is going to make you want to come back. The city at this point, I believe, seriously has to be the catalyst to bring business into South Norfolk. I don't think we're at the point where the business will locate in South Norfolk on any type of scale because of the statistics there. The city needs to take the lead. And that's because South Norfolk has location, location, location. It's really very, very close to downtown Norfolk. The major arteries there. It really has a prime location for the business and the entrepreneurial community. But more than anything else, we have to make sure it's a safe environment, and I think that's really the stress of this. A business incubator, what is it? And I really don't like to read slides, but I will read this one. A business incubator is a facility whose staff provides a comprehensive support process designed to assist and accelerate the successful development and growth of startup and young companies. This is accomplished through a carefully designed incubation program of business education, targeted services, networking, and other programs designed to help the entrepreneur. Well, who is attracted to this type of environment? The traditional incubator companies, the people who want to start their own business, the people who say, I've got a great idea, I just don't have a place to do it, I don't have mentors, I can't collaborate. International companies that are looking to move into the marketplace, hey, they just want some place to accommodate or collaborate in. Relocating companies from other regions, and also the academic program. As you can see, an incubator has all the office amenities, what I call the instant office environment, but more than that, it's the mentoring, it's the education, and it's the program. Where this came from, one of the places was the city of Franklin. They had tremendous floods in 1999. They had an old buggy warehouse, 40,000 square feet. Their city had been decimated. They took and put some city offices on the first floor, and they built the business incubator. Now, and the businesses have to apply, they have to pay rent, they have to participate, and they graduate. And now that business incubator has over 30 businesses inside. And the businesses are continually to line up to come into the business incubator, to be a part of it, and to graduate from it. And when they graduate from it, they graduate and usually stay within the Franklin area. Another incubator in the region is one that is in Williamsburg. This is a triangle business incubator, and the reason this one is shown is because they collaborate with the College of William & Mary, and that is some of the business school at William & Mary. The incubators in the region, there really aren't many on the south side. There's one in Norfolk called Hatch, but it's really not a facility collaborative. Old Dominion has a little bit of a gateway, but South Norfolk has actually what they all would look for. It has a location, it has a community, it has the arteries, it has the structure in place that I think this type of effort would really make a difference. So we look at a South Norfolk Business Incubator to replicate the appearance of quality for the corridor. Remember that we stated early on to it's first impressions. The Gateway is a wonderful environment, and I would say to everybody, I was there on Monday night with the South Norfolk Revitalization and took a tour inside, and you all should do that. It's really, really very nice. We need to have visible safety, and a satellite police station would be part of this. We need to make sure that there's a visible safety parameter on those streets. We would ensure traffic. You can't put a business incubator or a business environment without having traffic possibilities. Right now, the City Treasurer's and Commissioner of Revenue's office is back at the base of the bridge, moving them forward so that there is a traffic aspect, a walkable traffic aspect to the Poindexter Street corridor. Economic development present, a welcome center, an educational capability, a visible presence vested in the South Norfolk environment. And lastly, and probably not in the first phase, but I think just like HRT, who was here before, some type of shuttle system, some type of transportation system between downtown Norfolk and the Gateway area, where the young people who really strive for that type of transportation opportunity, it's there. The proposed site for this, the one that I initially had been proposed and looked at, was the one that was the South Norfolk Library. If you look at the red outline, that's the location. The city already owns that property, and you see the existing building on the right side of that. That's a 7,000 square foot building, going to 3 floors to match the Gateway style. That would give 21,000 square feet. The first floor would be a satellite police visible station. treasurer and at the city treasurers and economic development offices. The second and third floor would be the incubator. And of course, with all the other parts of the red area, there's parking available on site. That would be conducive to this as well. So really what I'm trying to make the point at is the investment in the South 22nd Street Bridge is an investment that may not perform and provide the economic development that this area of the city needs, whereas I think the incubator will and will do. And so we need to utilize the TIF funds for buildings, for acquisition. This would be something that the EDA and South Norfolk Revitalization